We are joined right now by our sports director, a tremendous human being, Jeff Hathhorn. He's on the Fan Hotline, presented by Sullivan Super Service, Pittsburgh trusted plumbing and HVAC provider for over 50 years. Good morning to you, Jeff. How you doing today?
Morning, guys. I feel like it's like you're waking up to finals week with these three games coming at you, you know?
I'm with you. Mm-hmm. It's also, for us, the week before Christmas. And we're already immature and slappy and sometimes lack focus. So I'm going to try to make it through this interview here, Jeff, without jumping around ADHD. Let's see how it goes.
I'm confident, kind of.
I always love that about Jeff. He's got confidence. All right, Jeff, can you help us make heads or tails of this George Pickens thing? Dulac reporting it's a grade 2 hamstring strain. But they had him listed as questionable, and he kind of seemed like a game-time decision. If it was grade 2, you wouldn't think he'd be a game-time decision. Can you help us work out the timeline here? What do you know?
So Thursday, after practice, he was fine. He was walking around the locker room. And then Friday, we saw him out there, and he went through some limited work, and you're thinking, all right, they're just, Friday's the lesser of all the practices as far as physicality. So even at that point, I thought, okay, they're just working some other guys in, or they're giving them a break. It's kind of like a veterans, limited practice. And then when we found out later about the hamstring in the injury report, was a surprise to all of us. And then to your point, what Jerry reported, and listen, I know Jerry is very well connected in that area, but grade 2, by definition, is a partial tear, which is, that doesn't sound like a game. It sounds like it's going to take a little bit of time just to rest. And, man, of all the people you could think of that offense, there are several key players on this team that you feel like they're difference makers, and obviously George is one of them.
Jeff, with all this being said, and if it holds up, and I'm sure that we'll find out a little bit more today with Mike Tomlin speaking, can they win this football game without George? Can they beat the Eagles in Philly for the first time? 1965? 65, right?
Yeah, they'll need some help from the Eagles. Can't tell you how many times they've gone and covered a game there and walked out of that stadium, and not just a loss, but it's like, even in the Ben days where it's like, damn, this was ugly. But in those games, the Eagles have always played well. The Eagles need to make some mistakes. And listen, they had a tight game with Carolina in their last game. So, they're not invincible. They're a team that's beatable, but you would have to play. Here's what you need to do. Mike Williams would have to be the Mike Williams that you saw at times against the Chargers and kind of take some of that role. And then you would have a chance. Because then you equal it up a little bit more because, other than that, with some minor things here or there, the Steelers have played some really good complimentary football.
Jeff, what's that sweatshirt you got on? See, the ADHD's kicking in. What do you got over there? What kind of sweatshirt is
Oh, this is an old school
Super Bowl 40.
This is a good luck piece.
Yeah. Yeah. Steelers, they didn't play the Eagles that year. They played them in 04. Oh, wait. To your point, though, they got beat 15-6. Ben got sacked 9 times. Brian Dawkins with the flying forced fumble. And then when they went to the AFC Championship in 2016, they lost 34-3 to the Philadelphia Eagles. So you're right. It doesn't necessarily mean that their season's over if they get throttled by these guys. Not that anybody would accept it. Jeff, who's the Steelers team MVP? We talked about it. We kicked it around a little bit yesterday.
Ooh, there's so many players that have played a key role. You could argue, even though he's only played half the season, that Russ, and what he's brought to that offense. I know people say Boswell. Boswell won them a couple of games. I just can't bring myself to say a kicker is the team MVP. How about Cam Hayward returning from a groin injury and being a leader of that defense? Now with 8 sacks, he's 3 from passing Howie Long on the all-time list. Maybe you kind of thought with the contract stuff, like, man, why are you signing this guy? I haven't heard one person say this year, man, why did they sign this guy? Maybe I would lean Hayward for what he's doing on the field and the intangibles that he brings to that team.
Jeff, who else needs to step up in this game? Let's talk about defense. Who needs to step up on defense if this defense needs to go out there and win this football game? We were talking earlier saying it's okay to ask this defense with this team being so well balanced, and it's not just us in the media here in Pittsburgh saying that. There's some national talking heads saying that this is the most balanced football team in the NFL. With that being said, it's okay to ask this defense to step up and win on Sunday. Who needs to be that guy for that to happen on this defense?
I mean, if Benton could just get a few more interceptions, that would be good. The thing is, it's been different guys. How about a Landon Roberts with a couple of big plays? And then obviously Keanu and James Pierre getting an interception. Not to be cliched because it's been a talk all year. It'd be nice to see a game-flipping pick from Minka, a turnover play from Minka. Elliott's been really – I mean, there have been so many different guys that have stepped up during the course of the season. Even in his first game back, Highsmith with the early sack. Obviously what TJ has done. I would say this, in a matchup like this, when you got Saquon, Hurts, which means it's going to be dual threats, put it on your middle linebacker. I want Patrick Queen to make some plays for me on Sunday. On Sunday. It's next week. It's Saturday.
That's right. You mentioned that Cam Hayward could be the team MVP. Could he be the defensive player of the year? I mean, you think about like Aiden Hutchinson was maybe the front runner, but then he gets hurt. They're not probably going to give it to Myles Garrett because he plays on a 3-10 football team. TJ Watt's having a good season, but not necessarily a Watt great season. Could it be Cam Hayward, DPOY?
Yeah, watching Hendrickson last night, you'd think that he might have a chance, but, he's playing on a losing football team.
Yeah.
5-8 football team. It's probably too provincial to say Cam, but, I mean, you would
never stopped us before.
Just because, immediately people look at sack numbers. So they're going to look and it'll be down the list, or they're going to look at tackle numbers. They're going to look at interceptions or other things like that. But for everything he does, you could put him on that list. I would say outside of the city, he's probably down on that list.
Jeff, there's a source here in this building that is saying that the next head coach of the West Virginia Mountaineers is going to be Rich Rodriguez. His second time around. Would that be a good thing or a bad thing for the Mountaineers if they do hire Rich Rodriguez today?
Ooh, I don't know. Dorna, congrats on breaking that news. He changed that program, 13-9 aside. I mean, he took that program to another level. He's a West Virginia guy. That's, I think, what kind of hurt so many of the Mountaineer fans is that when he took off, because he's a West Virginia guy. Unfortunately, Pitt's seen it saw it with Johnny Majors, where second chances don't always work. I think in this point, you want someone who you would think would be loyal to the program, who has a pedigree. I think Rich makes a lot of sense.
First Power 5 game would be against Pitt on September 13th, which would be 9-13, which I don't know that I'm mentally prepared for that.
Here's the thing, Adam, for you with Rich. Whereas in the past, it might take you time to build to a system. Hell, you could just recruit a whole team now. You could portal in a whole team, and he could have his system, ready a lot earlier than it might have taken him in previous years.
No doubt. You'd bring like your best 9-10 players from Jack State, and he has the backing of the Arizona Diamondbacks owner, Ken Kendrick. So I don't know that I love Rich Rod. Yeah, I don't know that it's my favorite hire, but I like money because you need money to win. Jeff, we appreciate your time. As always, we will talk to you on Thursday. Thank you.
See you, boys. Thanks.
Thanks, Jeff.
Jeff Hathhorn. It's a hell of a sweatshirt, Super Bowl 40.
That is sweet.
My formative years as a football fan.
Mm-hmm.
I had one of those weird things where I was thinking about death a lot for the 2 weeks leading up to that.
What?
Like finally realizing mortality. Like, one day I'm going to die.
Oh.
I'll always remember that about the lead up. People are like, the Super Bowl. I'm like, who cares? We're all going to be in worm food one day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I know.
That's more,
it's terrible. It's awful. I was 15. It's a tough place to be as a 15-year-old.
And you remember that. Like, that's
it was that bad.
Very, very wild.
Yeah. And now I'm venting as if I'm on a therapy couch.
Yes.
To you, my friend.
Right.
Digging up these dark demons.